Now, as we've been reporting today, Immigration Minister Scott Morrison has hit back at Fairfax media for publishing further asylum seeker claims of mistreatment at the hands of the Australian Navy. In the article written by Michael Bachelard, who'll be joining us in just a moment, Yousif Fasher says he has no doubt that he saw 3 people's hands held to a hot exhaust pipe as punishment, he says, for people going to the toilet too often. He says, "I saw it with my eyes because I was translating. They punished 3 of them so they would never want to go to the toilet again." They said, "Yousif, translate for the people. Say to anyone, if you want to go to the toilet again, we'll burn his hands." The article says while Mr Fasher is aware his story has been heavily disputed, he has no motive to lie. He asks, why would people burn their hands by themselves if it was only one person, you could say an accident, but 5 people? Joining us now is the Fairfax reporter who's got this story. He went over to interview face-to-face this man, and Michael Bachelard joins us now from Jakarta on the phone. We're hoping to speak to him via Skype, but the technology's let us down. Michael Bachelard, good morning. Thanks for joining us.
Good day, Virginia.
So where did you track down Yousif Ibrahim Fasher?
He's in an immigration detention centre on a small island off Sumatra. It's in a city called Tanjung Pinang. A detention centre that the Australian government helped build a few years ago, and also coincidentally the city where the Oceanic Vikings spent all those weeks under the Rudd government.
And why did you want to go there and speak to him?
Look, it seemed to me that the reports and claims and counterclaims had made things seem very muddy. And I went back to the tape of the original interview that Fairfax Media did with Yousif Ibrahim Fasher in early January, and his claims were very simple and clear, and I thought I would go and pass the ruler over them in the context of the political debate that was going on in Australia and try and get more detail. It seemed to me that his was the central voice, but we just weren't hearing him.
And what did you find when you spoke to him, comparing the original claims that he made and what he's told you this time?
Well, they were basically what he told us anyway, and what he told me the second time around were 100% congruent, except that this time there was so much more opportunity to get detail and to ask him to demonstrate, to find out exactly how he says these events occurred.
And looking at him as sceptically as you can as a journalist, you don't see any self-interest here, any mischievousness, any reason to be either lying or not telling the whole truth?
Well, look, you could look at it in 2 ways. He could be motivated by revenge, I suppose, that he feels that he was returned to Indonesia by the Australian Navy. He didn't like that and wants to hit back at them. So that's a potential motive for lying. On the other hand, he's I think believes, and it may well be true, that it's made spelling out these claims so publicly has made it difficult for him now to get what he wants, which is resettlement in Australia through the United Nations. So, you can see motives on either side. As you rightly point out, I want to try and apply journalistic scepticism to everything I hear.
Well, applying that scepticism, do you believe him?
Look, I found him to be very credible, but I wasn't on the boat, and my experience as a reporter teaches me to remain sceptical about them, about things. I do find him credible, but it's not always easy to tell. I guess my view on this is that we need to have all the information as clearly as possible on the table, and potentially to have some kind of inquiry that tries to cut through the claim and counterclaim.
Do we know the whereabouts of those 3 asylum seekers, the asylum seekers whose hands were burned?
We do know the whereabouts. They are in various places in Indonesia, some inside and some about to be in detention. But those people, and this is still a gap in the story, have not spoken to the media at all. That's because, according to Yousif and to others who are with them, I came very close during the week to speaking to one of them, but according to those around them, they are extremely nervous about the consequences for them, both from Australia but also from Indonesia and Indonesian authorities if they speak. As I say, I came very close to interviewing one of them and travelled quite some distance to do so, but in the end it was it proved impossible.
Another interesting part of your story published today is that it appears that no Australian authorities have interviewed or spoken to Yousif Ibrahim Fasher about his claims.
That's right, and I mean, we've seen the government make absolutely categorical statements that this is untrue and cannot possibly be true, and that members of the Australian Navy would never do this. It's not clear what investigations at this end they've done to back up those points, but it's clear that from the other end they have not listened directly to the words of Yousif Ibrahim Fasher, who claims to be an eyewitness to these events.
So you said just before you came very, very close to interviewing one of those three. Do you believe you might be able to track down any or all of them and interview them?
It's really up to them and their willingness to speak, and they are motivated by, I guess, the desire to tell their story and the fear of telling their story, according to those around them. So I couldn't guarantee I'd get to them, but I would certainly hope to at some point.
Michael Bachelard, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks, Virginia.
And in a statement, the Immigration Minister, Scott Morrison, says the government does not give credibility to malicious and unfounded slurs being made against our Navy personnel and rejects outright any allegations of unprofessional conduct by our people serving in Operation Sovereign Borders.
The statement goes on to say, I know and trust that our Navy and Customs and Border Protection Service act in accordance with their training and unlawful orders and would only use force where necessary and appropriate to deal with threatening and non-compliant behaviour as appropriate. Now, we also should point out that Scott Morrison is overseas at the moment. News Breakfast also invited the Foreign Minister, Julie Bishop, to join us on the program. However, she was unable to as she was on her way home herself from PNG.